heard the phrase drawing with scissors? Do you even think that's possible? Well, let's find out what Henri Matisse thought. Henri Matisse was a painter, and then later in his life he began creating collages. So he would take scissors and paper and he would cut out these organic shapes and then arrange them into a unique collage. And so this right here is one of his collages. It's called Sorrow of the King, and it represents David playing music for King Saul from the Bible. So we're gonna actually zoom right into this collage and look at the guitar, and we're gonna create a guitar of our own out of a collage. So come join me today and find what it means to draw with scissors. For our guitar collage, we need a few supplies: scissors, a glue stick, a marker or pen to sign your name when you're finished with your artwork, and then a few colored sheets of paper. I have 5 different colors here. You can use solid cardstock like I'm using. You can even use construction paper or scrap picking paper that has designs and prints on it. Now, you will need 1 sheet of paper that is about 8.5 by 11, a standard size sheet of paper for the background. That'll be the paper where we place all of our cutouts on top that holds our collage. And then you'll need 1 more 8.5 by 11 to start the guitar. So make sure 2 of your papers are about the same size. The rest of your colors can be various sizes because we're gonna end up cutting those out and we're gonna have smaller size pieces. So it really doesn't matter the size of any other color that you have. And then lastly, once we get to the gluing stage, you may want paper to protect your table surface so it doesn't get all sticky with your glue. So I have parchment paper here. You can use parchment paper, wax paper, or just another sheet of scrap paper to help protect your table during the gluing stage. So to begin, let's start with the color that you want the base of your guitar to be. And then you can set the rest of your colors to the side. So you'll see that I printed out a copy of the guitar. So if we look at the largest part of the guitar, it's called the body, and it has a lot of curved lines. So the bottom has a curved line on both sides, the top has curved lines on both sides, and then even on either side, it curves in a little bit. So to create this cutout, we're going to take our sheet and hold it the landscape way, and then right in the middle, I want you to cut down the center so you'll end up with 2 pieces. So set one of those aside, and then with the piece you have left, we're going to cut right down the center one more time. So now you have 2 rectangles. So we're going to use one of these rectangles to start the body of our guitar. So looking at the bottom of your rectangle, one of the smaller edges, come in towards the middle of that, and we're going to round this corner. We're going to make a big curved cut. So we rounded it all the way off and we got rid of that angled line. And then flip it over, and we're going to do the exact same thing on this corner. Starting in the middle, we are going to curve around and cut off that corner. So now you have this big curve on the bottom. And let's do the same thing for the top. Start in the middle and then curve around and cut off those corners. Okay, so you should have a rectangle now that doesn't have any corners. You've got just a curved piece right here. So like I said before, you notice that the guitar curved in on both sides. So we're going to do that. So right along the longest side of your rectangle, we are going to take our scissors along the edge and then gently curve in toward the middle and then curve right back out toward that top corner. So you should begin to have kind of an hourglass face. It goes in and then back out. So flip over your shape, and we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. So starting towards your bottom edge, we're going to curve in toward the center and then right back out again towards the top. And so now you should have your shape. This is the body of your guitar. And if for some reason there's a part where you want to adjust it with scissors, go ahead and do that. I'm going to take my scissors toward the top and just kind of cut off a few pieces and round this top just a little bit more. There, so there's the body of our guitar. So set this aside with the background paper that you have. And then with this other rectangle that we had cut off, we are now going to work on the neck. And that's this long piece right here that the guitarist would hold. So it's basically a long, thin rectangle. So to make your rectangle, just along one side, we are going to come in with our scissors a little bit and snip all the way up to the top. And then here is our rectangle. Now, if we look at the top, this top piece of the guitar is called the headstock. And sometimes guitars they're rounded up here. Sometimes they're kind of cut in with a different design. They could even be straight across, or sometimes they dip in at an angle. So for our guitar, we are going to round the top. So on this small line up here, just like we rounded the body, we are going to round these corners. So just come around with your scissors and cut off that corner to make a curved line. So here is the neck of your guitar. You can set that aside. And then the next piece that we're going to do is the sound hole. The sound hole is this circular part that's on top of the body. So choose a color that you want to place over the top of your body. I'm going to go with a light pink instead of a dark pink. And we're going to cut a circle. So a circle is basically a curved line all the way around. And you just want to make sure that the size that you cut will fit on top of the body of your guitar. So here's my body. I want to make sure that my circle will fit inside here. So you do the same thing. So starting along the edge of your paper, cut a curved line all the way around until it meets the other point. Okay, so there is the circle. We can set aside that. And then the next piece that we want to look at is this neck. I'm sorry, right on top of the neck, there's what's called a nut. And so it's this rectangular white line up here. It's very, very thin. So choose a color or the same color you used for the circle, and we're going to cut a really thin, small rectangle. So I'm just coming in right off the edge of my paper, snipping down and going across. So this is going to fit across your neck. It might be, right now your cutout may be longer than your neck. We can always trim it later once we get to the gluing part. So set that piece aside. And then the next part we have, if we move up towards the top again, we have what's called the tuners. So the tuners are 3 on one side and 3 on the other side. So we're going to actually cut out a long, thin rectangle, and then from there we're going to cut out 6 squares. So choose the color you want for your tuners, and then cut out a long rectangle. And then once you have your rectangle, it's easy to cut out the squares. So come in just a little, cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So with these tuners, we want to round the corners, just like we rounded the headstock and the body. We want to round these small, small corners. So take your scissors and slightly go inside on the corner and curve around. And we're going to do that for all corners on all 6 squares. So go ahead and work through that. There's 1. Okay, so now that we have our 6 tuners, we can set those small pieces aside. And I just keep putting all these pieces on top of my background paper so that I don't lose them. And then the next piece we want to do is the bridge. The bridge is this long rectangular piece down here on top of the body toward the bottom. So choose the color you want for the bridge, and then we're going to cut a rectangular shape. So it's a small piece, a little bit larger than the nut that you cut out up here. So cut out a rectangular shape. And then, like I said, on this piece, it is straight edges. Now, in some guitars, you might see a curve. So if you'd like, you can take your rectangle, come in from the bottom, and then curve down just a little bit for that dip, come back up, and then cut out to the side. And then you've got a little bit of a curved line in there. So set that aside. And then we've got one last piece for the guitar, and those are the 6 strings. So these strings are super, super thin. So to do that, I am going to cut one strip following the edge of my paper, but I'm only going in just a little bit. So we're going to come in and then cut all the way down the edge. So there's one string, and then we need to do that 5 more times. So cut 6 thin strings. Okay, so there are the 6 strings. I'm going to set those to the side, and then we have one last step that I'd like to do for our collage. So we've got all the guitar pieces, but now I want you to think about what Henri Matisse would do. So he created collages, and a lot of times the shapes that he pasted together to form a collage had a lot of organic shapes. Now these shapes, a lot of times they appear irregular. They tend to have a curvy flow to them. So if you think outside in nature, if you think like flower petals or leaves, they're free-flowing shapes. They have a lot of curves to them. And beyond the curvy shapes that he cut, he'd even cut spirals or even sometimes zigzags. So I want you to think about what kind of background shapes do you want to go behind your guitar, and choose a piece of paper, and then we're going to take our scissors and we're just going to begin to cut. So a lot of curves and just flowy shapes to go around on our background paper. So there's an example of a curvy shape. I didn't really take much thought, just took my scissors to the paper and just kind of curved around. So I'm going to do that one more time, and you can use a different color, you can use the same color. Henri Matisse even would layer his shapes, so maybe you could cut something smaller than what you just cut and then eventually glue it on top, and we can layer that. But what Henri Matisse would do, I mentioned earlier that he would draw with scissors. And this is exactly what drawing with scissors means. He didn't use his marker to draw out the shape and then cut around the marker. He just took his scissors directly to the paper and began drawing with his scissors. So there's 2 shapes. You can pause the video if you'd like to do more of these curvy shapes, or you can follow along with me. I'm going to show you how to do the spiral shape. So to start, we need to cut a circular shape. So now that you have your circle, we need to find the edge with our scissors and then come in just a little bit. And then following this outer edge of the circle, we need to cut. And just continually following that edge all the way until we get to the center and we cannot cut anymore. so I'm getting towards the center and I really can't go any farther, so I'm going to stop right there. And you'll see how we begin to have a spiral. It's kind of bouncy, it separates, but if I put it flat down on the table, you don't really see the effect of the spiral. I can't see what is behind it. So let's take one more cut to this. So right on the edge, I'm going to call this the tail of the spiral, the end. Take your scissors and right in the middle, we're going to cut. And you'll see how these are beginning to separate. So we're going to end up with two. So follow the edge and cut all the way around until you get to the center of your spiral. And once you get towards the center with your cutting, just cut to separate them, and then you may have to do a little bit of entangling to get these two to separate. There, so now we have two spirals, and they look so much better because now I can see what's actually behind, so I see that they're spirals. So let's set those aside, and now we're going to get our background paper and we're going to begin the gluing stage. So here's my background paper, and then if you also have that scrap paper or parchment paper, that'll help with protecting your table from all the glue. So to start, let's begin with the background shapes. So if you want to glue a spiral that you cut down, we're going to take the glue stick, and I like to just kind of follow the spiral all the way around with my glue stick. It just helps to get every part of that paper soaked with glue so it sticks to the background. And then once you've got glue covered on your spiral, take that up and determine where do you want to place that on your paper. It could really go anywhere. When we glue our guitar down, we're going to overlap the guitar on top of some of these shapes that we put down. So it doesn't matter where you place these background curvy shapes. So then choose another one. If you want to add the second spiral that you had, you can go ahead and do that, or you can begin to add in the curvy shapes and determine where you want to place those. I'm going to put my second spiral on. And sometimes these get tricky when they pull off with glue. If that happens to you, just kind of let it come back together. It pretty much does it itself if you give it some time. And then determine where you want that second shape on your background paper and go ahead and glue that. And sometimes I like to just press my finger around the spiral to make sure that all pieces touch the background and that they are down for good. Okay, and if you have any extra pieces, irregular shapes or small or large, and you'd like to glue those on, go ahead and do that. And again, I had mentioned before that you can even overlap these shapes. You can layer them. So I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to take another one. Mine happens to be the same color, but maybe yours is a different color to give it some depth. And then place it over top. So then once you have all your background shapes, now it's time to actually begin gluing the guitar. So grab all of those guitar pieces, and then we're going to begin with the body of the guitar. So have your body, and then find your sound hole, and take your glue stick, and then on the back of your sound hole, place some glue, and then right in the middle of your body, go ahead and place your sound hole. And then on the back side of your body, put some glue, rub some glue right around the edge of that shape, get some glue in the middle, and now we're going to begin to layer our guitar on top of our paper. So where do you want your guitar to be? Just remember, we're going to put a neck on there too, so you probably want to place this towards the bottom a little bit. But do you want it angled? Do you want it over toward the side? Do you want to center it? Where do you want your guitar? I think I'm gonna go this way, and then press down so it gets flat on there. So that's the body. Now look for your neck. Your neck is that rectangular piece that has the rounded top. So glue one side of that. And then flip it over. And then right over the top of your body, go ahead and place the neck right in the center, and then press that down. And then let's do the tuners. The tuners are those 6 squares that we cut and rounded the corners. So we're going to glue the back side of each of those, and we're going to place 3 on one side of our neck and 3 on the other side. So glue the back side, and then just stick it along the top. And then the next one right below the first one, and then continue, so you have 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Okay, so there's the tuners, and then right below the tuner we have the nut. Now your nut, if it's like mine, it might be a little bit longer than your neck, so we can just bring our scissors back in and find the edge of both sides, and then trim the excess piece and brush that to the side, and then glue the back side of your nut and place that below your tuner. And then back down here on the body, we've got the bridge. So the bridge was, you may have a rectangular shape, or you may have one that you added a curve to. So glue the back side of that. And then you can place that any which way below your sound hole. And then lastly, we've got these 6 thin strings. So the strings are going to go from the bridge all the way up to the top of the headstock. So my strings are a little bit longer, so I'm going to go ahead and trim them before I even glue them. So I'm measuring, so I've got the bottom of my string right on top of this bridge and up at the top. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut right about there. So that's 1, and I'm going to do that for all 6 of them so that they're about similar sizes. So to do that easily, I can measure my first string and then trim it at the same spot, and I'm going to do that for all 6 of them. Okay, so you should have 6 strings, and I'm going to line my strings up right here so that I can glue them a little bit easier. If you want to do the same, it's kind of helpful to just do it all at the same time. Okay, so here are the 6 strings, and then the glue stick. And starting from the bottom, I want to make sure I completely cover this string so it sticks down. So from one end to the other end, I'm just rubbing this glue stick on all 6. Okay, so now we can take the string, so just lift it up, and we're gonna place it on top of the bridge, on top of this bottom piece, all the way up to the top, and just run your finger over the top of the string to make sure it's smooth and flat, and then go ahead with the next one. Begin at the bottom by the bridge, connect it all the way up to the top, and then do that with all 6 strings. There we go. So that is our guitar collage inspired by Henri Matisse. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, but before you go, I want you to make sure to sign the bottom of your work. An artist always signs their work, so you can sign your work or you can put your initials down there. But I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you come back for another lesson. So I'll see you next time.